Are you feeling alone? Are you feeling like you're giving a lot more and not getting enough in return?
Are you feeling like you can't do anything right? If you want to be able to grow into your fullest potential, then let's talk. It might be time to get out.
Hi, I'm Dash.
Hi, I'm Sabia. And today we're going to be asking each other a few more questions. Start by asking, can you change someone?
Can you change someone? I suppose if the reason is that you are trying to change somebody for something that you think is the problem, the person you're trying to change is not going to see it the same way. They're not going to see themselves as part of the problem. So if you try and change someone, usually what will end up happening is you will get disappointed.
Good point. But why are you trying to change someone in the first place?
Well, because if you're trying to make your situation better, if you're trying to make your relationship better.
So basically, what you're saying is you're not trying to change the person, you're trying to fix behaviors in the relationship.
Yeah, like what if you feel like you're in a toxic relationship? I suppose that's somewhere you would feel like you want to make a change and effect change in that relationship. So,
Okay, and that's a really good point. We're here today to talk about toxic relationships. What is a toxic relationship? As defined by Dr. Lillian Glass, who is a California based communication and psychology expert, and defined in her book Toxic People, it's any relationship between people who don't support each other, where there's conflict, and one seeks to undermine the other, where there's competition, where there's disrespect, and a lack of cohesiveness. So, in layman's terms, it's any relationship in your life. It doesn't have to be partners. It can be friends as well. It can be people that you work with.
yeah, it can be colleagues, it can be people that you went to school with or still go to school or uni with. There's any form of bond that you're basically suffering in, it's some sort of a toxic relationship that you're suffering. And it doesn't have to be a formal relationship, it can just be acquaintances as well. So,
Next question. So, knowing what a toxic relationship is and why we're trying to change somebody, why then do I or that person feel guilty when they're the ones who are suffering?
well, suffering comes from a few places. Suffering comes from when you're not feeling validated, when your feelings are not being considered, like whatever you're feeling is not being validated and considered. What you're basically feeling is a lack of boundaries, where you feel like your boundaries are not being, and then this is where you start to get into this spiraling mess of things where you're trying to get out of it. And what happens is you want to change, and you want to more you want to change, the worse you feel because it's not happening the way you'd feel. And this is where you'd want to start coming in to where you'd actually want to seek some help or get an understanding of things.
But with that understanding, I suppose I'm trying really hard.
Yeah.
And I really want this relationship to keep working.
Yeah.
But why do I want to keep spending time on this?
Why does anybody want to do that? Because we usually feel like we've invested a lot in everything. Like, like, I've gone to university, for example, 4 years and year away from graduating, and I've invested 4 years. But if it's not something you enjoy, you shouldn't be doing that to begin with, or you shouldn't be doing that anymore. Simple as that. And that's what, in clinical terms, you could probably call it sunk cost, in way of you're never going to get anything back. So why keep investing more?
Okay, I have another question. I know that I can't trust this other person, and my return on investment is obviously not working, and I'm not happy.
Yeah.
But knowing all of that, when did I start losing trust in myself?
Well, from personal experience, and the only analogy I can give you here is the frog and a pot of hot water analogy. You probably heard this before. If you take a frog, put it in a pot of hot water, it will jump out. It's
Yeah,
simple. It's
of
a reflex
course.
thing. You probably think it's common sense. But on the contrary, if you take a frog, put it in a pot where the water is not hot, just room temperature, then slowly start increasing the heat,
Okay.
the frog doesn't jump out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. The reason for that is because at some point things start happening in your relationship, and usually it's a small thing at a time. You accept this today and something else tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you can't define that actual period when things started going bad. You know it's bad now, but you
Yeah.
just can't define when it was bad to
Sure.
begin with, or when it started going bad. And your reality starts getting distorted because you can't recollect things
Yeah.
as they are. And usually when you recollect them and you try to present facts or actions based on a follow-up of whatever conversation that happened, the result is not what you expected. And this is thinking, did I make that mistake of recollecting that wrong? Probably not. It's just you got to remember that when the person who's in your life is making you feel what you're feeling based on what works for them. So the best advice, and this is what I've done in my past, is when I felt like I couldn't trust myself, I started keeping a journal. Just a small thing, nothing elaborate, just a small couple of lines a day that I needed to sort of, don't keep that in with the intention of starting an argument next time, but
No,
make
please no.
sure it's for yourself, so you can just calibrate your reality on what's happened in the relationship, what's happening, what basically will happen. And if this keeps happening, then you can actually analyze your own behavior and slowly start gaining trust in yourself.
All right, so another common thing that I've seen or that I know people have experienced is it's about when they're feeling lonely in that relationship. Is it normal though to feel so cut off from other people, to feel so lonely from other people in the current relationship that you're in? I mean, when you're distanced from your friends and family, say, in a romantic relationship, or you just feel like you can't talk to anyone. Is that normal?
No. And that's not even normal when you're in the honeymoon phase of your relationship, when you're in that love bubble, when you don't want to, leave the apartment for 3 days, order pizza and whatnot. But reality is you don't do that. A human being doesn't feel that naturally. We're connecting. We like to connect. That's why we talk to other people. That's why we reach out to other people. That's why we have friends, the concept of friends. But if you're suddenly starting to feel like an island where your only person that you in your life is the one person that sort of dictates a lot of the things that are happening, that's not normal at all. The solution for that is not straightforward. You can't just jump out of bed and say, I'm going to make 10 friends today. But you have to start somewhere. Start familiar. Start with people that you knew and you who know will be there for you. But you have to start reaching out. Those tentacles need to go out there to make those connections. And they may not be the strongest of connections. Maybe it'll be a coffee catch up, or, hey, I'm going to go do my supermarket run tomorrow at this time. Did you want to, just have a chat to me? Because whatever works for you, it has to be done. It has to be a small step, because that's going to get you slowly, like you're dipping your toe back into the water. But slowly and steadily, you can make that progress.
Okay, and so speaking of solutions, is there a solution?
Easier said than done. But if you do find yourself in a relationship where you are suffering toxicity in some form, you're probably feeling alone. You're feeling lonely. You're feeling that you're not living to your best potential. You're feeling like you're not made to feel like anything you do is good enough. And that's not never good. And basic human rights we're talking about here is you shouldn't be made to feel that way. So the solution for that is, again, this is what I said, you have to start slowly. Connect with people. Find things that you find fulfilling, and you find something that makes you happy. Things that actually get you back to what you used to be, a passionate person. Maybe you don't feel like that right now. Maybe you won't feel, but once you start going into the journey, and you will see, oh my God, I've changed so much from last Tuesday to the Tuesday before that. And once you start seeing those markers behind you, I suppose that's when your progress will begin. If there are any other tips that you would have found helpful in your life.
I can't obviously talk to romantic relationships, but I can talk to school and work. And to be quite honest, I didn't do too much. I let time heal. My feelings soothed my feelings. I got myself out of that situation. I will say that. It was imperative to do that. And for anyone who's currently feeling like this, if you can, please get yourself out of there, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, especially physically, get yourself out in one way or the other. Another very important thing to remember is that in these situations, it is absolutely, to me anyway, it's absolutely important to seek professional help. Talk to a trained professional, a therapist, a psychologist, someone who will be able to assess the situation
Yep.
without bias. That is, I feel that is very important.
100% agreed. And I mean, think of the analogy simple, during COVID times, and a lot of people wanted to give themselves a haircut, but you always sort of wanted to wait for when the restrictions came out so you could go get a professional haircut because they will do a good job and you trust them to do a good job. That's what they're trained to do. The same thing applies to seeking help.
Yeah.
It's there's no I'm just gonna say it, be it whatever gender you are, there's no shame in this. You have to seek help and you're not as cut off as you think, and I promise you, when you do seek that help, family, friends, professionally, whatever, you will start seeing the benefits, and then you will start thanking yourself. Your future self will thank you. And the biggest thing you have to remember is always be ready to walk away, and you have to make yourself ready. Accept that you may not be able to get the outcome in this particular relationship, so you have to learn to walk away. Do it for yourself because your future self is asking you that, and your future self will thank you for it later.
Absolutely. I think these are really good tips. Look, again, this is all from personal experience.
100%.
We are not trained professionals. We talk to you as friends.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think the most important thing for you at this very stage is to understand what you're going through. You might be very confused right now, and that's okay. Your first priority should be to yourself. Are you okay? Yeah. And if you're not, as we've mentioned, speak up.
Yeah, it's not about just two people on the internet that told you to do so. It's also about you will realize that after this, whatever you think of this, it has to be for your benefit and your benefit alone to start with. Do you think is there any markers or any signs or flags that a person needs to be aware of in some sort of a toxic relationship? So
I think firstly, you'll start to notice behaviors changing.
Yep.
So when you first started dating or when the friendship first began, it was very happy and bubbly and nothing could go wrong. But then all of a sudden you're starting to notice that they're expecting too much of you or they're questioning you too much. And then, as we talked about, that frog in hot water analogy where things start to happen slowly but more often, and you start believing that whatever they're feeding you, whatever they're giving you, is somehow what you deserve and what you can only get out of this friendship. It's basically, it's their way or no way. So I really think that those are red flags, and you may not see it at first, but it's always good to question those things as well. If you're suddenly feeling threatened in any shape or form, it's a pretty big sign that you need to reassess what's going on in this relationship.
Well, if you can take away something or anything from this, just take away this then. Simple. A, B, C, D. Accusation, blame, criticism, and demand. If that's happening a lot and too many times and too often, more often than you're comfortable with, seek help.
Absolutely. First thing, if you recognize those, you absolutely need to be seeking help. If you need to talk to a friend or a family member or someone impartial, do it. You're only helping yourself.
We'll try and put links down below for local help, especially in Melbourne in Australia. That should start you, but I promise you, wherever you are, there should be local support available. So please don't feel shy. Get on with it. Do it privately until you feel comfortable talking about it. But please make that effort. That is the only advice I can give you from my personal experience and our personal experience in life based on what we've dealt with.
Absolutely. And we are an open, judgment-free space. If you feel like you need to get something off your chest or the way that you're feeling, a comment section is there for you.
We're going to leave this here for the moment. There is a lot more that we can talk about, but I suppose there'll be future videos for.
We've raised, I believe, some important things that needed to be discussed.
100%.
Remember, we are a safe space, so please comment below, reach out. We're here to talk. Remember that there is professional help available for you if you are seeking it. We'll make sure to add some links below.
Yep.
Is there anything you'd like to add today?
Well, in closing, I would like to say thank you for watching. I'm Dash.
I'm Sabia.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.